Hey everybody, how's it going out there? It's Rick Koppel coming at you from Denver, Colorado with another episode of Not a Lance Guru Guy. Today we're going to have Profetik on with us, otherwise known as Joe D, apparently. So, hey, hi Joe. Yeah, let me see if it's coming through on this or not. Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. Can't really, yeah, yeah, I'd have to have it on something else to get sound on this thing. So anyway, yeah, hopefully we get somebody on here and they can tell us whether it's coming through or not. At least if you know we got the picture so they know we're here. Alrighty. So anyway, we're here with Profetik777. How'd you come up with that name, by the way? Uh-huh. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're not coming through on the video apparently. Hold on just a moment. Hold on. Thanks, Steve, for letting us know. Bye, Steve, by the way. How you doing? So, let's see. I don't know why you're not showing up. Let's see. Your mic. Oh, I see what's going on. Yeah, thought I saw what's going on. Changing device. Oh yeah, should be marathon. Yeah, sometimes you have to switch these things back and forth on OBS before they take effect.
My audio myself.
Oh, there you go. Do another test.
I think I might have lost you 1 second. Sorry.
He needs to Disneyland soon, Steve says. You're still in California, Steve?
Test 1, 2.
Yeah, I think you're coming through now. Do you hear him, Steve?
Test 1, 2.
At least it shows on OBS you're coming through.
Hold on 1 second.
Says heading. Very quiet, he said. Sounds loud. Here, maybe I'll put some gain on you. That'll help. I have some gain on there.
Second, sorry.
How's that? Now to another test.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Let's see. It says very quiet before.
Test 1, 2.
Enjoying vacation, he says. How's it coming through now, Steve?
Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Jill on Wednesday, he says.
Test 1, 2.
Yes, he says it's coming through good now. So yeah, we'll start over, I guess. Yeah, I was asking Joe here. Perfect, he says. Thank you, Steve, for confirming that for us. And yeah, so I asked Joe what his okay, for some reason. Yes, he says it's coming through good now. So yeah, we'll start over, I guess. Yeah, I was asking Joe here. Perfect, he says. Thank you, Steve, for confirming that for us. And hold on a second, I gotta get this off. Joe what his and there. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I had a little feedback coming across the other monitor. Just turned it off. Yeah, I had it on my Bluetooth. Not my Bluetooth. It's on my Acer over here. Spire's
Mm.
monitoring it, and but I put on uh, Awesome Window Manager recently on it as a test, and I don't know how to. I don't know the key binding to actually tell it to shut up. so, so anyway, we're here with Joe Profetik777. How'd you come up with that name? We'll start over there with that.
Sure. So, when I was in my younger days, I was really into my faith, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just a kind of a cheesy way on the play on words of prophetic. And I stepped away from organized religion. I found out that I still had that handle somehow, part of my email and YouTube. And I was like, okay, I guess what should I do with this? Being that I'm so opinionated about projects and Linux projects overall, and the direction of technology in general, I was like, maybe I'll just have a play on words with this and how I have opinions about the future and how these projects play out, and I just decided to keep it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds cool. So you have that, and what do you do for a living exactly?
So right now I'm at a tech company that works in privilege access and
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity, and I am an instructor for this company, and I help customers learn how to use the tools that they need in order to manage their machines.
Yeah. So what part of the country you live in, if you don't mind telling?
Sure. So I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All the way in Pennsylvania.
Yep, yep, yep.
Sounds good. So do you have a family or are you single?
Yeah, I am happily married. Two kids, one 8, one 4,
Hmm.
and my son who's 4 just recently beat cancer's butt, and he
Yay.
is full remission, and
That's good.
we're just really enjoying our summer now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know it's been hard to schedule this with you
Yeah, yeah, it's
because
been
of the
tricky for
kids.
sure.
Kids, we have our kids, and you have your kids, so it's a little
Yeah.
difficult to squeeze it in perfect. Anyway, we got it in, so that's good. So, what and when was your first experience with a computer?
Oh boy,
It's
I
in your
would say
backwards.
um, when someone in our church donated a computer to my dad, and yeah, just playing around with the word processor because we didn't have any games, and just learning how to type things
Mm-hmm.
and play typing games. And so it was just those big old gray looking machines.
IBM or something like that,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. I think it was a compact or IBM. I forget, but I'm pretty sure it was actually a compact machine,
What
big old
year was
tank.
this approximately?
Oof, boy. Um, Probably 1994.
94, around that time
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
Yeah, my son is about your age, and he was born in 1994 as well. He was born, but he was born then, but not that you were born then, but You're probably a little older than him, so
Yeah.
that's cool. 30s or so, I guess.
Yeah, late 30s right now.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it like in seventh grade. I'm terrible with numbers, and it's all a blur when it comes to like doing the math. So I go back in time with how old I was when I first checked out computers at school.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it was definitely the early internet days, and it was the kind of like the Wild Wild West. You just kind of they had a computer in every computer in every classroom, and no one barely used it because no one really knew how to use it. It was just like one
Yeah.
or two people.
Yeah, that was before my time. I mean, actually, I was before your time, or so to speak. We didn't even have computers back in the 70s, so much to personal computers at least, except for a few strand people here and there. So, when was the first computer you ever owned?
Wow. I think it might have been a one that I personally owned that I bought for myself. It was like a Dell Inspiron,
Mm-hmm.
15 inch,
Dell
and
Inspiron.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was at least one of the early ones. Yeah, that I fully owned, paid out of my own pocket.
Yeah.
It got beat up, some USBs, it got broken, like it stopped working out of nowhere, but it held
Remember how
up
much RAM it
overall.
had?
Oh yeah, 6 gigs, not
Wow.
bad, not
Not
bad.
bad for that time period.
Yeah, yeah. Again, this is the one that I was like I personally owned. If I had to go even back before that, it was probably a really old compact laptop with like the trackpad is like
Mm-hmm.
maybe half of a credit card and it was super sensitive. You just
Yeah.
you can look at it and the trackpad will make the mouse move. Like it was so sensitive that thing was. It was a tank, huge fans in it. It was heavy as anything. um but that was that was probably like, the first one that was like kind of mine, but I didn't pay for, and that had like 2 gigs of RAM.
Yeah. First I ever owned was a TI 994A that dates me a while back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, the computers look cooler back then though, even though the screens were smaller.
Right.
Those are
Well,
like they have like,
this one didn't even have a screen. You had to hook it up to a TV.
oh really? I
Yeah.
was thinking about another one. What was it called again?
TI 994A.
Oh yeah, you're right. But even those look cool. Like I've
Yeah,
seen retro builds of those.
it's kind of slick
Yeah,
looking. More for cartridge playing games and stuff like that, but I learned basic on it at least. TI basic at least.
that's
So, uh,
super cool
so
looking.
let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. So when and where was the first Linux distro you ever installed, and why?
Um, Pretty sure it was PC Linux OS
Mm-hmm.
because the Ubuntu CD took too long to get to me. I'm pretty sure I ordered the CD at the beginning of the summer,
Mm-hmm.
in 2009, and then I didn't get it till like the end of the summer. That's
Mm-hmm.
back when Ubuntu was like actually mailing their installation CDs.
Right, they're ISOs.
Yeah, and so I basically, in the time it took to get the CD shipped to me, I learned how to burn ISOs to CD
Mm-hmm.
and learned my way through the installer and installed packages and whatnot. So that was kind of like my timeline on that.
Interesting. And I suppose from there you had other Linux distros you got installed and stuff, and you eventually started downloading them and stuff like that.
Oh man, I had a huge stack of CDs. I went on an install binge, and probably like 70% of them like wouldn't boot, and maybe another like 20% of them wouldn't have the right Wi-Fi drivers. Because
Right.
2009 was like, I think in my opinion, was like it was like Wi-Fi drivers were starting to get a little better, but it still wasn't quite there. So I still had to, figure out the whole Wi-Fi driver thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, had a huge stack of ISOs.
Yeah. I actually have the computer I installed my first Linux distro on back in, well, no, I don't have that computer anymore, but it was back in 2001, I think.
Oh wow.
The Debian version. I got CDs for it and tried to install it. Didn't wasn't very successful, but I tried.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. So uh, what distro and why do you use it? What distro is currently your daily driver?
Oh, I use Micro OS desktop, which is
Surprise,
now
surprise,
named,
surprise.
yeah, um, which is now named micro OpenSUSE Eon OS.
Yeah, I'm having to learn that.
Yeah, it's a whole like in good Linux tradition, we have to have like pronunciation wars.
Mm,
So you can call it Eon or Aeon. We don't
yeah,
care as long as you use it. Um, so that's the daily driver on this machine right now.
uh-huh.
Um, so that's my tried and true machine.
Yeah. Now, have they got that out of beta yet?
Yeah. So, well, if you currently installed Micro OS Desktop, eventually it's going to roll into uh 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 micro. I mean, sorry, OpenSUSE Eon,
Mm-hmm.
and then when that lands on your machine, that's when you have the official 1.0 release.
Got
So
it.
right now it's in release. It's a release candidate if you install it right now, I believe.
Is
But
this GNOME
you're
desktop or
like
both? Did
it's
they
GNOME
just
Desktop is the primary supported desktop. They do have a
right?
Plasma version that's alpha. That version is called Kalpa, which is a play on Alp, their prototype series of like systems,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like a spiritual successor to Micro OS, the server version,
Yeah.
and K with the Plasma. So
Uh-huh.
that's an alpha though. That's not as feature
As
equivalent to it, but it's
right.
it's it's getting better every day.
Yeah. Well, when I used it, it seemed pretty decent
Oh
as
yeah,
far as the desktop part of it. And
totally.
yeah.
I've used
So
Micro OS Desktop since it was beta.
yeah.
That says how solid it is. Like I was blown away by them
Mm-hmm.
calling it beta. It's been so solid.
Right. So yeah, that's cool. And we see. So currently you're involved with what we just called what used to be called MicroS, now called Eon, which is an immutable file system of OpenSUSE. What do you do in there? What do you do there, and how did you end up involved with that particular project?
Yeah, so I was hearing Jorge Castro, George Castro, um talk about Silverblue a lot, and he is pretty much like a evangelist for immutable based file systems,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a great GitHub resource of like all these different things. And I kind of was hearing it on various podcasts. I was like, let me just kind of bite the bullet and check out what this stuff was.
Mm-hmm.
So I installed it. I did some research and I got bit by the bug. Like, yes, this is the future. And I always tend to be have a higher tolerance level
Mm-hmm.
for innovative things or futuristic things. So I can
Right.
I don't mind the cruft. Excuse me, I don't mind it being a little rough around the edges. So I
Right.
tried Silverbloom. Um, it wasn't that it was too rough because people use it every day,
Yeah.
but there were certain parts of the system that didn't seem like as polished as I wanted it to be. And so if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to learn something new, um, I just didn't feel fully confident in like kind of diving in. I tried micro OS and instantly there was like zero friction from me installing it to me using it. Because it kind of did some of the things that um Silver Blue aims for and just
Mm-hmm.
does it for you. So it kind of does some things conveniently for you.
Yeah.
One of the things that it does for you is a flat hub in the software center
Mm-hmm.
by default. And I'll be honest, like that being done for you instead of having to go in system settings and enable
Mm-hmm.
it. before you had to do something else with the command line. Just that it was just there to begin with
Mm-hmm.
was just a breath of fresh air, you know. And so it's like,
Right.
wow, I could see this being something that when it's in its full maturity, I instead of handing a Chromebook to someone, I can hand this off to someone and say, "Hey, here you go." And I actually did that recently, um, at, and this person has not said one thing to me or asked me to help with anything on her install. So
Mm-hmm.
that alone says a lot about the project.
Yeah, that's one of the things I see as a benefit of mutable systems is that they have the uh, ability to you can hand them to people who don't know much about the system and all that kind of stuff, and you don't have to worry about them screwing it up too much.
Yeah, yeah. As long as they just install some flat packs and boom, they're off to the races.
Yeah.
And so once I kind of got bit by that bug, to answer your question, I I was asking to say, hey, how can I help with marketing and communications? And because they're still in the early stage, it wasn't so much marketing part; it was more the communications part, which
Mm-hmm.
is another way of saying documentation. So I've been helping out with documentation, hanging out in a Telegram group, answering questions, and also you see in Linux Saloon being a project evangelist as well, kind of spreading the
Right.
love on every chance I get.
Yeah. For a while I was in had micro well when it's called macOS. I had it installed on 3 different computers here in my house. I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
pretty
You did a
decent.
live install on one of them, I think,
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did it
on a stream.
on my channel. Yeah, live
Yep.
stream. Yeah, I think I did. So I also did some other things on live stream. The whole installing a distro. I installed Icewind, not Ice,
Yep.
but i3 Window
Yep.
Manager in a distro box, and had it where you could log into it that way. That's
Yeah.
fun.
That seemed really cool. That was cool
Yeah,
that you pulled that off.
yeah. So let's see. Are you or have you been involved in other distros
Um, I
over
guess
the years?
loosely, I used to volunteer for UB Ports,
Mm-hmm.
which is the, community project that was handed off from Ubuntu or Canonical to the folks at UB Ports.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like marketing communications for them that was successful for a short while. And uh, also I've done some work with Freedom Box, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a an all-in-one Raspberry Pi or equivalent system. You can install it on x86 too, not just ARM. And it's basically geared towards like if you can self-host some apps that help increase your security and privacy. So that was one area where I helped out with as well. And just projects that kind of like really pique my interest. I think is really good for society overall.
Uh-huh.
I try to like dive in.
Cool. That's interesting. So, uh, well, we talked about one benefit of an immutable file system. What are the other advantages of them that you would consider key?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is I'm glad you asked this because there's such a nuance to how people um, execute the concept of an immutable based system.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, um, the way Silverblue does updates is through kind of like you download an entire image of a system, and
Mm-hmm.
then that gets reapplied to the other partition, and then you reboot into that partition. So it's kind of like a all or nothing type thing. And that's helpful because if that partition that you're booting into fails for whatever reason, it rolls back and to the last known good state, which is great. The way Micro OS does it or Aeon does it, it uses transactional, almost like Git like um, schema of updating only the elements that require updating. And how they're able to do that is because they have ButterFS by default, but also instead of using OS tree like Silverblue does,
Mm-hmm.
it's using a transactional component that only kind of uh, sees what is required and swaps out those elements and updates accordingly. And because it's built on top of Tumbleweed, you're getting the rolling cadence of Tumbleweed, and those things are still being tested. So it only hits you when it's ready. And the update to apply an update, it's a little faster to get applied,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little more nimble when you if you have to like process a if you want to force an update because
Mm-hmm.
it's automatically applied. But if I wanted to take my machine and force an update, that if there's one available,
Mm-hmm.
um, that process would be a little quicker and more transparent than it would be on Silverblue. Silverblue, you're basically re-downloading an ISO every time you update.
Wow.
So there's a
Yeah.
pros and cons to both. It's not one's better than other, but um,
Right.
that's just that's just that's just how they do it. And if you like one or the other, you can pick the one that you like. But for me, I think the fact that it's automatic and I'm also doing it on top of a tried and true system of like ButterFS and
Mm-hmm.
using Tumbleweed as a base for this stuff. It's I kind of like those are mature things, and I'd rather stick to that kind of base. So I like the rolling aspect that's automatically applied. Same thing with flat packs. Um,
Yeah.
Flat packs are automatically updated, and those things kind of like just put me over the edge to for micro OS or Eon.
Right. And that was the advantage of that is when you hand it to a new user or somebody that's not familiar with the Linux that much, they automatically get the updates.
Exactly. They literally don't have to think about the machine after they install. They just use it. And that's
Right.
to me that little difference um goes a long way.
Yeah, I imagine an office environment would even be more critical
Yeah.
because you have people there. I know from my time doing IT work, in conjunction with bookkeeping, they had me doing both most of the time. So I'd have to be working with Rick, come do this, Rick, come do that, because they screwed something up or something wasn't working right.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it more resilient for sure.
Yeah. So let's see. Do you think the mutable? I guess you probably do, but are the mutable systems ready for standard users desktop daily driver?
That's a good question. If the user profile is like if you if the person would be okay with a Chromebook,
Mm-hmm.
I would say and they didn't have Nvidia as part of their system, I
Yeah.
would say yes.
Yeah.
If they got some funky hardware, I would say probably not
Yeah.
because Nvidia is Nvidia. And some of their things require interactive upgrade or update.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's where they might have to look at a terminal once every few months or every 6 months or whatever Nvidia does their thing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so if they're not using Nvidia and they're okay with generic web browser apps and they have this software center with Flatpaks, I would say yes. I think it's ready. Um, if they're doing a development work, I would say it's a case by case because doing mobile on a mutable based system is probably not a good experience right now.
Mobile.
But if you're doing generic web development, you
Mm-hmm.
should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So by mobile, you mean like putting together apps for mobile?
Correct, yeah, because
Yeah.
Apple makes it so hard to work on Apple from other systems, and
Right.
then Android. There's this Android Studio, even though they have a Flatpak and Snap, sometimes you get some weird messages from the dbus, or trying to
Yeah.
access something, and you just want everything available for the app.
Right. Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts about free and open source software? Boss.
Yeah, I'm a big at our church. I'm constantly moving over things little by little to FOSS.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, we got off of Windows for our media PC
Uh-huh.
because every other month, or not even that, more sometimes more frequently, we would get an update and the audio output would get changed.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you're troubleshooting something, sometimes you miss the obvious things first.
Right.
And,
Like your computer's unplugged.
yeah, or one of the audio jacks is like slightly off. And so, now I would get the call, and it was always the same thing. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, the updates would come in. There was one time an update came in on a Sunday. We have
Mm-hmm.
services on Sunday. And so it was just like weird things where just like just got tired of it. Weird performance issues too. Like it would just so I wanted to treat this machine like a static appliance, and so
Right.
every chance I get, I'm trying to move us to FOSS.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently phasing out AnyDesk soon as our remote access
Mm-hmm.
management to just using X11 VNC.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm a huge proponent. I think we should do more to support developers financially. I think we should do more to help them out with marketing and communications, because I think as AI and all these other technologies are coming out, we're going to need to have a FOSS answer to it,
Yeah.
and not just to have an answer to it, that's like a technical equivalent. That probably will never be happen because
Unless
sometimes these
Elon has something to
companies,
say about it.
yeah, like so yeah, it's like it's we can a FOSS project compete with open AI? Maybe not, probably not. um but it's not so much about having it as a technical one for one. It's also about how do we bring it down to the masses.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, where my passion lies in FOSS. Is like, you made a cool thing on GitHub, sweet. How do you make a cool front end for it that makes sense for a user?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really care about FOSS, and where it's lacking a lot of times from these projects.
Yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of developers in there, and sometimes they don't have all the marketing skills or UI skills to make it work
Yeah,
perfectly or well sometimes.
exactly.
But that's why you need everybody in the community, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So developers do have to let go a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, if any developer hears this, or he sees this, it's like, you got to learn how to trust. You got to let go a little bit. You got to. It's if you could do it, you would do it by now. The fact that it's not done is because you're too busy, and so you should hand it off, let go, trust a little bit, and do
Right.
that. And also, people in the community, you know, um, we got to give a little more. We get
Yeah.
so much free stuff for free, it's like we should really think about being more intentional with our finances,
Mm-hmm.
and invest in these projects more.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of times I'm guilty of just, cool, use it and forget about it.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think,
Yeah.
if I wish I had more, I wish I could do more. Invest more.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of people who could, but are not for whatever reason. And I just try to call that out and say, hey, let's step it up.
Right. But that's nice to know. Now, Foss, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you can't totally get away from proprietary stuff as much because there's some things you have to have and it's only proprietarily available. But I use Foss as much as I can too. Matter of fact, I had back when I was in another church, and I became treasurer. I moved this accounting software over to Boss,
Mm.
which was basically I used the GNU Cache project.
Oh, I heard about that. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, Rick. I did not realize my camera was off this whole time.
Oh, I figured you wanted to hide or something.
Sorry.
So I didn't say anything.
Let me blur my background because it's crazy back here with the toys and the kids playing here. But so sorry about
Yeah, no problem. So now everybody knows what you look like.
that.
Facial recognition goes into
Yeah,
effect on the FBI.
the jig is up.
Yeah. Do you have any other websites, blogs, or YouTube channels or stuff like that you want to
Um,
share?
I occasionally do UX things, like basically things that are for the users benefit.
Mm-hmm.
These false projects are awesome, but I like to point out apps that get user experience right. Um, I also sometimes do some stuff on when it goes wrong, like
Mm-hmm.
Discord. And I also cover, immutability in its various forms. So if you want to get a cat, I don't drop them every week, but when I do drop them, I try to make it, as meaningful as possible. To speak in that space, where there's not a lot of strong opinions. So if you want to follow there, but I do have a website that I'm going to be working on a little more on. And I'm actually in the beginning stages of trying to build out something with a code name. Might be the actual name, but the code name is Libra Bridge Labs. Libra Bridge Labs. And if you go to joedlopez.me, joedlopez.me, that's where I'm going to be kind of posting some things about it. And that's pretty much where my hub, where I post my career development stuff, personal development, speaking gigs. And also that's where that's going to initially live at. Basically, the concept is how can we invest in projects more in a coordinated effort? So, for example, just last night on Linux Saloon, we had someone kind of showcase and break down how to self-host your AI. You know, what if someone wanted to come around and give that person a grant
Mm-hmm.
and build that out and make it a little more slicker, more user friendly, so that it's easy to self-host, even easier, or just fund some really cool projects that we need. Um, that's free and open source. Then the Libra Bridge Labs might be the place where you can donate and know that the money, whatever you donate there, is probably going to go to a project that is going to fund something that we need to kind of compete. Not so much compete because I hate using that word, but to kind of level the playing field for the average user. A lot of these big companies are using our data and making these products out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and we get a lot of benefit from it. Don't get me wrong, I use ChatGPT, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have the user empowered, for self-hosting their own things, as opposed to having just a handful of companies just lording that technology over us. So yeah, so that's where that project comes in.
Interesting. So, do you have any input? Well, what I was going to say is, before I forget it, send me a link. Any links you want me to post? I'll put them on the description.
Sure, we'll do.
So, it'll be in the description for those at some point soon. So, also, do you what do you think about AI? All this AI stuff happening.
Yeah, so well, there was a great conversation last night on Lake Saloon about it.
I missed it, unfortunately.
What was that?
I missed it, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a great episode. Um, Basically, it was it's only inevitable. I think we're in the MySpace days of AI. Remember MySpace, where we had
Mm-hmm.
Tom and that creepy looking guy looking back over his shoulder, and as
Right.
if everyone had a friend named Tom in MySpace. And MySpace blew up and then it died. I
Mhm.
think OpenAI and ChatGPT might be the MySpace of today. It's blowing up now, and other technologies might be coming out that will blow it out the water in terms of how we interact with it.
Right.
So I think kind of like what some folks said in a 2 weeks ago's episode of Linux Saloon, we really should get overexposed with AI tools and the learn the different nuances between projects. That's
Hmm.
why I really appreciate the self-hosting of AI, and then also comparing that with ChatGPT and Bing and what they're doing, with like integrating they're integrating in all of their products like Microsoft Word. It's not just Copilot anymore. It's Copilot is in Microsoft Word now, PowerPoint.
Hmm.
So it's like as FOSS users, we should totally be using this stuff, getting ahead of it so that it can inform our ability to bring it to the masses in a more ethical way, perhaps. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like my thoughts on it. I think we kind of lean it. It's not going anywhere. The tube, it's out of the tube. It's not going back in, and we should lean in on it.
Yeah. Well, I heard just recently that Elon Musk is AI that he's developing for his cars to drive self-drive automate.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's there's a few quirks or stuff in it, but he's getting closer. Thinking this next by the end of this year or next year, it'll be pretty effective to where they can just
yeah.
send it out on its own.
I um I heard someone another network. I'm not going to name drop the network, but they were kind of complaining about how everyone's making a big deal about AI, and they're not really worried about it so much. And for listeners who might be thinking like, "Oh, it's still early. It's not that great. They're just regurgitating what they find on the internet." I just want them to realize that this is just the beginning.
Yeah,
This is just early phases. It's already impressive in what it can do. Imagine when it gets refined.
yeah.
And so
It starts being
that's
able to learn itself and teach itself stuff.
yeah, just so many
That's
different ways
amazing.
this can advance so fast. And
Yeah, yeah. By the time it's yeah, Elon Musk is wanting to have a government come in and put regulations on it because he said by the time we realize we need them, it'll be too late.
yeah, yeah. I think that's it's interesting to see that like a company, someone in the wheelhouse of capitalism asking for regulation.
Yeah,
There's something there. So
right.
but there's also this thing of like just radical leadership of just like being better at self-regulating,
Uh huh.
but they just don't want to do that. They're really trying to outsource it and have the government so have that come in. And
Yeah.
I think it's a nice way to still get your cake and eat it too. So
Hmm.
Sam Altman, it was just recently on the news doing just that, asking for regulation. And I think in his heart of hearts he knows he's not going to get the regulation he needs, but he's using that, and people can say that they're using that as a means to say, well, we tried to ask you to regulate us before.
Hmm.
Now we're here, and something's going to happen, and they're just going to blame the
Yeah.
lack of regulation for it.
Right. Because the way regulations usually work is that something bad has to happen, like airplane crash, and
Yeah,
they figure out why it happened on it, and then they put in new regulations to help prevent that from happening again.
yep,
But if it's AI, smart AI, you can't really do that.
yes, it's and there's so many scenarios you can imagine where bad things can happen, but until
Yeah,
until something actually happens,
yeah.
we're gonna have a false sense of comfort. So I do think regulation is going to be needed, but um,
A lot of benefits to it and potential negatives too,
yeah,
like
yeah,
any technology we've developed.
can you imagine this? And this goes back to my the play on my handle of prophetic.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to AI, we're interacting AI mostly with text prompts,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Or it's kind of watching slash listening to what we type with Copilot. You're typing something, it sees it, and it's giving you suggestions, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with Elon Musk, which is kind of next level,
Mm-hmm.
is when imagine if you don't have to do a text prompt anymore. Imagine if you just think the
The
thought.
Neuralink thing he's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to hit the mainstream AI integration
Yeah.
because it's really cumbersome to include AI in an interface. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be a drop down or a side panel, and you have to type something, and then you have to kind of like really like redirect it somehow to get the
Yeah.
output that you need. Um, so we have an interface gap,
Right.
and that's why I think Elon's next level with his thinking is because yeah, he says the throughput of two thumbs, on mobile,
Yeah.
is limited. We have
10
to,
some,
yeah,
forget what
10,
he said it
I
was.
forget. Yeah, it was like 10
But
kilobytes per second or something like
yeah.
that.
Right.
Um, so once we have that interface that is, surgically implanted in our brain, that's when we see AI take off. Right now, I think AI is going to be glorified assistants, like to help us in our
Yeah.
day jobs. I don't see it doing mass damage in terms of like I mean jobs will be lost for sure,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I don't think it will be as detrimental as they're saying. And I think and even if it is, I think it's going to take longer for it to disseminate into the masses, into the various industries. Some industries would get slaughtered faster than others,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't be as evenly distributed as or as fastly distributed that disruption until we have better interfaces for it. Until
Right.
then, yeah, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure with my already brain implants if another one would, I'm a candidate for another one like that, but
Yeah,
that would be cool. Except I'm worried about if you can send stuff out, they can put stuff in too.
exactly. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
not sure, can they like do mind control on us or something? With
Exactly. And then
Neuralink?
you want to have like regulation on the front end of that one for sure. But not so much
Yeah,
like after the fact. And I think that was also dealt with like medical devices in general.
yeah.
They're asking for regulation on what happens when a company who created a device for an implant goes out of business. What
Mm-hmm.
should happen to that software code, the source code of that? And
Mm-hmm.
so they're in courts battling that one out. But that should have been addressed before the surgery, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so it goes to show you that we definitely have to like clamor for regulation and be like very stubborn about getting this kind of regulation done ahead of time to keep these companies in check because they're not, let's be
Yeah,
honest, they're not in our best interest. They don't have our best interest in mind. So we
yeah,
have regulation is and I'm not a big regulation guy to begin with either, like,
yeah, right.
but I
Me
think in
neither.
this area, I think we have to.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting stuff. I
Yeah.
was thinking probably the one benefit I'd like for his automated cars is at some point I'm not going to be able to drive myself
There you go.
around due to Parkinson's, so uh, it'd be nice to be able to hop a car, tell it where to go, and just take me there.
Yeah, yeah. The quality of life gets increased dramatically by that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's powerful.
Yeah, for sick people, everybody would be able to use that has problems with sicknesses and other things. They can't drive. I don't know, but anyway, we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure over
Yeah,
the next 2 or 3 years, 5 years down the road, we'll be going, what do we used to
yeah. I believe it too. You used
do?
to type into this thing, like what? You used to punch things with letters. That's weird.
Right.
Meanwhile, I have typewriters behind me. I collect typewriters just a reminder. Like this,
Yeah.
man.
Okay. Anybody out there, if there's anybody out there and you have a question for prophetic, because he's so prophetic. So, so, yeah, you can. call in or put it in the
Chat. Where's the chat
chat.
window? I think I have it
Yeah.
up.
So far, Steve's the only one that's been on visible, at least. I
Yeah.
don't know who all has actually been looking at us or listening to us, but
Yeah. Sundays are rough.
yeah, especially at 12 o'clock right after church.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We've been going for about hours. That's a good time, I think.
Yeah. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's any other subjects you want to discuss or anything that you want to say beyond what we've already said.
Let's see. No, I think we're good. Let's show our developers a lot of love this year. Let's
Yeah.
volunteer. Let's take over some wikis. Let's just crush it with like supporting our developers with these amazing products they give us.
Yeah.
That'd be my final word.
Yeah, it's really good stuff they do. A lot of work goes into a lot of these apps and OSs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you've been on. I've been on it too a little bit, but you've been on macOS a lot longer, so you know all the work that's gone into that pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah. So say hi to Richard for me
We'll do.
and all
We'll
the other
do.
people over there,
Yeah, we'll do.
and we'll see everybody next week, or not next week, but next month, hopefully. Another episode of a chat with whoever. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but we'll get somebody. So, let's see.
Have a good one.
Yeah. So, peace and Linux force be with you. Bye.
See ya.